This is Brian Norris with the Arms Guide, and today I'm thankful for the opportunity to interview Mr. James Yeager. James is the founder, owner, and CEO of Tactical Response. He's known for his protective security details in Baghdad, Iraq, his service in a wide variety of law enforcement roles, his prolific YouTube videos, and various TV and movie roles, most recently in the film Daylight's End. So, Mr. James Yeager, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to speak with me today. How are you?
You're welcome. You said you were thankful. You'll need to say that when the interview's over. If it's true. It's like when people say, "Let me tell you a funny joke." I say, "Let me tell you. You tell me the joke. I'll tell you if it was funny or not."
Hey, listen. Either way, I mean, I don't think it's debatable that you're someone that's going to get views and hits, and that's the name of the game. So I'm thankful either way. No matter what you say, we're good to go. First question here. I made the intro kind of really brief, because your bio is full of interesting stuff, but it's way more interesting if you talk about your story than if I do, or read it to folks. So what do people that read this article or watch this video need to know about you? Granted, most people will probably know who you are, but let's just assume that the readers don't know anything about who you are, because there may be some that don't.
Well, I don't know at what length you want this autobiography, but basically, I live in Camden, Tennessee. I grew up about 20 miles from where I'm sitting right now, and rural Tennessee. I liked to shoot when I was younger, 22 pistols and rifles. Never was into hunting very much, which is unusual around here. I never cared for the taste of game,
right.
So I had no compunction for killing things. It just, didn't like to eat it. So, but I really did like to shoot. And
you don't like to eat squirrel?
I really don't, man. And people like, well, what? And they're like, oh, I got this recipe for cooking, whatever, deer, and you can't even taste the deer meat in it. I'm like, that's the problem. You have a recipe where I don't taste the thing I'm eating.
Yeah.
And I've traveled abroad a lot.
Yeah.
And what I just stopped asking what it was. Like,
I hear you.
I like it or I don't.
I don't. Baloo, I don't care. I just give it to me. Let me eat that stuff.
Yeah, Baloo. Yeah.
My great grandma. My people come from West Virginia, the hills of West Virginia, and my great.
I could tell you're Scotch Irish.
Yeah. So my great grandma used to get mad if anybody would shoot the squirrel's head in the family, because she wanted to eat the brain. She wanted to crack them, and that's not a story. I hear a lot of people say it, but she would get mad. She'd get livid.
Well, a couple of things. Number one, there's a book called Born Fighting, about the Scotch-Irish descent through Appalachia.
Yeah.
And you would find it interesting, probably. Also, the paternal half of my family is from Charleston, West Virginia, the coal mine region up there. So it's funny. The German half of my family is from West Virginia, not the Scotch-Irish half.
Right.
So all around Charleston, you see like Yeager Airport, Yeager. That's my clan.
Yeah. I was born in Charleston Memorial. I didn't grow up there, but it's a beautiful country for sure. I didn't mean to jump in and cut you off. You're telling us all about yourself. What do people need to know?
No. That's what these things are. Yeah. It's exploratory. Since we're there, so I'm half Scotch Irish and I'm half German, which explains my propensity for violence, but not my lack of alcoholism. So.
Yeah. So
there's a mystery right there.
Completely teetotaler, right? No alcohol.
Yeah, nothing. I mean, ever. I've never drank or smoked or done drugs or anything. And growing up in the family I grew up in, you were like the black sheep if you were the guy that wasn't partaking.
Yeah.
So I had a screwy childhood. Nothing horrible. Overall pretty happy, but very poor. And I got into shooting and stuff like that, and then I started shooting IPSC in the late 1990s, and this is the early 1990s. Sorry, like the 1989 or 90 or something like that.
Right.
And this is where people usually go, "Why didn't you shoot out EPA?" And it wouldn't be invented for about another 6 years at this point. so that's, I'm not a natural shooter. Like people go, oh wow, you must have been. No, I was horrible at it. I mean, bad. And I'd go to these IPSC matches, and these other more experienced shooters would come up to me and they go, hey, you did pretty good on that run, but I've got this pointer for you, or you could do this next time. And sometimes it was like, just like stuff to do faster at a match, but a lot of it was like how to shoot better.
Right.
And so I always like, you think back to those guys that during my very formative years as a gun handler, they really were a big help. So just before that, I was like, I need a centerfire handgun. I wonder what I should get. And this is before the internet. Not that it would have helped, but it's like, man, where can I get? I'll go buy a gun magazine. And on the cover of that gun magazine was the best handgun ever made. So I went and bought it. And it was a Ruger P85 Mark II. I didn't realize that next month there would be another gun on the cover of that magazine that was the best gun ever made.
Yeah,
I got all the way up
to. That's what we do.
Yeah. I got all the way up to B class.
Yeah.
With that Ruger, and
they're not bad guns. The P85 it's not a bad gun. It's not a bad gun.
To this day, it still works.
Yeah. It's a big gun, but it's a heavy gun, but it's not a bad gun.
And so my gun and my history kind of combined there. And so January of 1992, I became a police officer. And so, man, I got to get a pistol, right? I got to get a Glock. So I wound up with a Glock 23 because I used to read Leroy Thompson's articles, and Glock 23 is a great gun. It's a police thing, so okay, that's what I got. Yeah. And then pretty soon after that, I got a Glock 19 because it was so much cheaper to practice with. And the first day I went to the range and took the wrong gun with the wrong ammo, I sold my 23. And so for a lot of people, there's this huge progression of carrying 50 different guns till they get where they're at. But 19 for me, 19 as a cop in my holster, 19 in my holster in Baghdad, and not today. I'm carrying something different as an experiment, but Glock 19 is just like that was the evolution. So worked undercover for 4 years. I made over 3,000 felony dope buys and sales during that time. And anybody that's ever worked undercover will tell you that is a shitload of work. Yeah. And went into patrol and SWAT and K9 after that. I have this love-hate relationship with law enforcement. I love it, and it hates me. And so I got fired a few times because this might come as a surprise, but I have a bit of an attitude problem. No, stop, please. No, I really do have a bit of an attitude problem. I don't know you,
so, I mean, I'll just go by what you say.
Anyway, and so I thought, well, and I started the training company in '96 while I was still a cop, and it was growing and growing. And in '99, while I was still policing, I policed full time until 2002. My wife said, you made more money with your part-time job than you did with your full-time job because cops in the South don't get paid much. No. I said, but I don't care. I'm a cop. This is what I'm going to do. And I loved it. I loved the job.
Yeah.
And then finally, I was like, "Fuck it, I'll just go training."
Yeah.
And so I've been training ever since. And I've done other things, popped around the globe a few times, and done some protective work, and like in Baghdad and stuff like that. But since 2002, the mainstay of my life has been doing firearms training.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really cool. So we get a fair number of people that are brand new to shooting and just getting into that whole kind of rhythm. Could you kind of walk me through, as a trainer, a path that you'd recommend to somebody that's trying to get from brand new to self-defense, brand new to shooting, to proficiency and ability to protect themselves?
Well, I'll just start talking, and if I answer the question, I'll stop,
Yeah. So like the classes that they ought to take. Yeah.
Well, let's just say this. My core class, if somebody said, "Hey, James, I want to take one class from you, what should it be?" Sure. The class is fighting pistol. Right. Now, so it's a 2-day class, and what I tell students, I tell them all, and I mean this,
right,
that if you were independently wealthy and you had a pallet of ammo and unlimited time and a range, you could figure out everything I'm telling you. It would take you a while, but everything I'm telling you eventually you'd be like, that doesn't work. I'm going to try this, and you figure it out. So what I tell folks is I'm just giving you the cheat codes, to use a gaming term.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you some shortcuts, some hacks.
The Nintendo Genie.
What's that?
The Nintendo Genie.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's all I am, the genie. I'm a range genie, and because I treat all my students like they're motivated, intelligent adults that could learn this if they had the time.
Yeah.
I had the time. I wrote it down. I'm sharing it with them.
Sure.
And that's kind of my philosophy on training in general, is that I'm not training people that are stupid. They're doctors, or they're bus drivers, or mechanics, and
right.
and I'm sharing them the cheat codes with them.
Sure. So obviously you have a bit of kind of a scope and sequence to your classes. Like if somebody, because you've been at this for a while, so you're saying, hey, this is the best place to start. This is what we want to get you through. But if maybe in a general sense, somebody ought to start with this class, and then they ought to move into something like, what are the 3 or 4 or 5, however many classes you think somebody ought to have to get started?
Well, this is probably not an answer you're going to hear. They could just take the one class.
Okay.
I teach them enough things in fighting pistol that if they went home and did dry practice, you don't have to shoot, but if they went home and did the dry practice and made an occasional trip to the range and
right.
honed those skills, that would be enough.
Sure.
Now, I know that training companies are there to sell you the next
sure.
thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, but right. I'm being 100% honest. If somebody came and took my fighting pistol, which is, and I'll bet any man that wants to bet, it is the most complete 2-day pistol class on the face of the earth. They come and they just dedicated themselves to going home and practicing all those skills until they owned them. They really would never have to take another class.
Okay. And in the pistol kind of self-defense category, right? But
I mean, really, period.
Really? Now, you would add medical and some of those kind of things, right? Like, no?
Yeah, I mean, listen, like, I could, because we teach them how to use cover and all these different things that would apply whether they're using a rifle or a shotgun. And,
okay.
I'm not saying that people should take one class.
Sure, obviously.
I'm just saying for the folks that you know that are looking, go, man, I don't have, $5,000 to spend on classes to get where this guy says I should
like
go.
All of us. Yeah.
I'm telling you, one class would give you a solid foundation on which to build.
Okay. Cool.
Now to further answer your question,
sure.
The second class somebody should take, I believe, would be our scenarios class. Basically, it's called the fight.
Yeah.
And we use simunitions, not airsoft. We use simunitions, and we put people in scenarios, bank robberies, home invasions, and things like that. Some of them you should shoot. Some of you shouldn't shoot. Some of them it's like choose your own ending, because if you're kind of aggressive with the role players, maybe you cause a fight, or
right.
maybe you talk them out of it. But that would certainly be up there. And then we have a 2-day medical class that deals with stab wounds and gunshot wounds. I think is very important. So out of the 3 classes, I think all of my students should take, only one of them is really a shooting class.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. Super helpful. Thank you. And I wasn't trying to answer. I just...
No.
I
like sometimes I get very philosophical and I don't answer a question, so I want to make sure that I do answer everything for you.
Sure. So I'm going to go ahead and out myself. I love watching your videos. My wife kind of makes fun of me sitting there listening.
She makes fun of me too, so.
No, she doesn't make fun of you. She does. She makes fun of me sitting there listening to, are you watching another gun video? Yeah, that's what I'm doing. But I hear you make a distinction often in those videos between the gun community and the gun culture. Could you kind of flesh that out for us?
Yeah, I hope this is already shown. The gun community are a bunch of fucking bootlicking liberal assholes, and I don't care what they think. The gun culture, in which I am part of, are unapologetic in our exhibition and use and love of the Second Amendment.
Okay.
I don't call a silencer a suppressor, because that's a term that was brought up to pacify liberals. I say assault rifle, even if it's not an assault rifle. I say it because I don't care.
So it's like a PC thing. Is that the?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Like the gun community is always like, you're going to make us look bad to them.
Right.
So they'll try to take our guns. They're not taking my guns. I'll shoot them in the fucking face. I'm not afraid of them, and I'm not backing down to them.
Right.
And so I get very angry when these guys will post on my channel talking about how I'm making the gun community look bad, as if I give a fuck if I make them look bad.
Yeah.
I'll try to stop cussing now.
It's your mouth. You do with it as you will.
I don't know what your show. I don't know what you do. So
It's okay. It's okay. So it's great to see you. We're going to just kind of move through these. It's great to see you involve your family in what you do, your children, your grandchildren, in your business life. You know, that's been something that's been meaningful to me as a family man myself. Is legacy important to you?
Like, if you mean legacy in the sense of like one of my grandchildren taking the company over one day, yeah, of course I would like that. But really, I think my legacy will be my philosophy on training and things like that. And that's the parts that I hope stick. When I started making YouTube videos, and then this will kind of tie back into legacy if you'll give me a minute.
I'm with you.
Well, business was exploding, and people were showing up to class that had no idea what they were getting into. So I did a few videos like, here's how to draw a holster, here's how to reload, here's OODA loop, and here's some things you should know before you come to class, because people kept saying it's like drinking out of a fire hose, and we wanted to like ease it up for those folks.
Right.
Well, I didn't tell anybody else to watch those videos. People started watching them, and it blew up, and the YouTube thing became this other thing. I never intended to be a YouTube guy, and so then I started doing social stuff like gay marriage and stuff about politics and voting and jury duty and all that. And people were like, why are you doing that? Well, first off, there's two reasons. Number one, I think you should know the trainer you're giving your money to. Will your trainer stand up for you if you're gay? Will your trainer stand up for you if you're Jewish or whatever the case may be? I think that you should know what your trainer thinks about politics and what did he do to help get your person elected, or what did he do to not help your person get elected. I think all that matters. But more importantly, I want my grandkids to know who I am all the way around. And so I let YouTube know who I am all the way around. And I don't hide anything. There's no secrets in my life. You see the life I live. And I enjoy it, and people like sharing it with me. And so that's all kind of become this legacy thing.
Yeah. I mean, and that's more what I meant than the business side. I mean, that's awesome, but how important is it that they know you and who you are, and that your family kind of has that mindset that you're handing down, which is really, I mean, I'm just trying to give you props. I think it's a beautiful thing to see you do with your kids and your grandkids. You strike me as someone that has a purpose behind the things you do, someone that has a specific kind of code of ethics. Whether people agree with it or not, you are what you are, and you put yourself out there. I may be wrong, but I'm guessing that you're someone who has a relatively specific idea of what makes a man a good man. If that's not the case, then please.
Well,
but what's your idea of manhood and a good man?
Well, I mean, if we're using adjectives, certainly integrity, but in general, I think people that know me would say things about me like, I'm forthright. Now, if you like me, I'm forthright. If you don't like what I'm saying, I'm abrasive.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but you never have to, if you're in my life, you never have to wonder what I'm thinking at the moment, because it's out of my mouth. But a man should be like the standard. Maybe it's old fashioned, but honest and reliable, and and things like that. Like, I wear a watch. People don't wear watches anymore. People that are on time wear watches. Like when I make an appointment, I'm on time. But more broadly, like I don't know, man. It's like, work hard, be honest. Like, you can find a whole bunch of people that have never met me that say I'm an asshole. You can find a few people that have met me that say I'm an asshole.
Sure.
I'm looking right in the camera. You will never find somebody that says I lied to them, stole from them, cheated them in any way.
Sure.
And I also believe that in being very generous, I'm very generous to my friends and family, and sometimes complete strangers, because I should be. I've been blessed. I have more than I need, and I really enjoy giving it away. And there's also something about growing up very poor, having had people be generous to me when I was a child,
Mm-hmm.
that I feel like I have to do that.
Yeah.
Like my wife also grew up very poor, and her family moved around a lot. Her dad looking for work and things like that. And one Christmas they just moved in this new place, and they had nothing for Christmas, and I mean no food. They had nothing, and they got a knock at the door, and this lady dropped off like a dish of food, and then another knock and another knock. She said they knocked all day. We had presents everywhere, and she says she looks back on her childhood, and even though it was going to be very depressing, that was the happiest Christmas of her life. And so that makes me be generous all year round, but we're especially generous at Christmas. But we're always looking for that family to help. But I don't know. Anyway, I think being a man means working hard, being honest, being caring, compassionate, giving, and if necessary, absolutely brutal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for that answer. So I'm trying here because I got on YouTube and there are tons of interviews, and I'm like, okay, what hasn't been asked? So
you're doing a good job. You're asking me. You haven't asked me about guns yet. Not
so
that I care about that, but like, what? Tell me about the new. Like I said, I'm carrying a different gun today, and you didn't ask what it was.
Right. I wanted to. I really wanted to, but I figured, you would have told me if you wanted to tell me. So.
Oh, it's not. It's not like that at all. It's the TP9.
Holy cow!
SFX.
Yeah, the SFX.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did the Elite. I haven't shot this yet.
I really like it. I really like it a lot. It's very easy to shoot very well.
Yeah. Well, it's got a long sight radius, that's for sure. And is it like a G34? Is it very much?
Yeah.
So let's see here. Outside of your training school, where do you think everybody ought to train? And I've heard you answer this a bunch of times, but I think it's important.
Well, I don't know what you heard, but nobody should train at one place, me or anywhere else. There's no fountain of knowledge that is absolute. And I explain to students this way: you're putting together a jigsaw puzzle. I'm putting together a jigsaw puzzle. There are pieces missing, but I'm putting it together, and you have to do that too. No instructor has all the pieces. They all have a few, and no instructor has 0 pieces. Even a retarded, stupid instructor has 1 piece. And no, it's not what not to do. No, it's not that.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a piece. And so my thing is, like, if you look around, there's not a whole lot of people, instructors like me, that host other instructors at their range. Chris Costa just did 2 classes here. He just left the other day. But if you want to know who I think is good, look at my videos.
You bring in.
Like, absolutely, everybody should train with Clint Smith at Thunder Ranch.
Right.
End of story. Should train with John Farnham and Ken Hackathorn. The reason I named those 3 guys first, even though that they are diametrically opposed on some things, because I named those guys first, it's because, and I'm not trying to be mean, they're old.
Yeah, they're older.
Yeah.
That's what I heard you say before.
And what's funny is I've helped John and Clint. I call them analog instructors, and I'm helping them become digital. No, they used to write articles and books, and people don't read articles anymore. And so I've convinced them both to start doing videos. And so I don't know if you've seen Clint Smith's,
Yeah, thank you for getting him on YouTube. If you were instrumental in that, thank you.
Yeah,
he's awesome.
I'm not trying to sound boastful. If you ask him, he'll say he did it because of me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh yeah,
he's a wealth of knowledge, and to hear him, it's just awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing too with Ken Hackathorn and John Farnham. They are also wealths of knowledge that have been teaching as long as I've been alive, almost. And so we got to you have to train with those guys and put them on your short list. And I tell people this all the time: if you have a choice between training with me this year or one of those guys, go train with those guys. I'm going to be around a while.
Yeah.
And I could go on and on and on and on with a list of awesome instructors. But those 3 are at the top of the list.
Yeah, super. What advice would you give to the prospective student to keep from wasting their money on training? I think I caught some of it earlier when you said start with training rather than just buy a bunch of ammo. But specifically,
I tell people all the time. They're saying, "I think what handgun should I buy?"
Yeah.
And I say, "Listen, don't buy a handgun. Sign up for a class. Buy some ammo. I'll loan you a gun and holster and all that stuff. Take the class, and then go buy a gun as an educated consumer." Every once in a while, somebody does that. Not very often, but they want to buy this and buy that and buy this and buy that. And I get it. I mean, we've all been guilty of stuff like that. But the reality is, the sooner you can get training, the better off you are.
Yeah. Well, specifically, a lot of people are going to look locally for firearms instruction and self-defense instruction. What kind of keys would you give maybe to a cousin that's not going to come down to you or something to say, watch out for this? It's a telltale sign of somebody that's not the best person to go get taught from.
Well, I mean, look at their resume.
Yeah.
And if it only has NRA
yeah.
certificates on it, don't go. And there's nothing wrong with the
Sure.
NRA. But if they've never gone to train anywhere, then and if they've only trained at the NRA, then they're not somebody I want to train me.
Yeah.
If you look at my resume as far as like civilian shooting schools, I've trained everywhere. I mean,
yeah.
There are some exceptions. I haven't trained every single place, but all the big schools, all the big instructors, all the big names are on my resume. And so I don't know. It's people. There are people that tell me, "Hey, when are you going to teach a class in East Tennessee?" Like they can't drive from the other side of the state. Are you serious? Like people like that wouldn't take a class if I taught it in their front yard. The reality is that training isn't. What's that?
People make time for what they care about. Yeah, they do.
Right. And here's all I know. I've been doing this for this is my 21st year in business. We have over 60,000 students. We had over 6,000 students last year. At the end of every class, I say, "Does anybody want their money back?"
Yeah.
Nobody's ever asked for their money back.
Yeah. Are they scared of you? Is that why? Or no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I have a gun in my hand when I ask, and I'm going like this. Does anything not? But
But you do travel and teach a lot, or at least you used to.
We don't travel that much.
Right.
We go to Austin, Texas, and Palmyra near Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
We used to travel a whole lot, like a rock band.
Yeah.
Except without all the money, fame, or women.
Right.
But I don't have to anymore, and I'm not trying to be a butthole. And
yeah. No, that's.
I want to stay home with my grandkids, so.
Yeah, if you can stay home, why not, right? I mean, unless you really love traveling, and when you were traveling, when you're on the road a lot, were you listen to audio books, listen to music? What were you spending your time doing? What was on the radio in your Suburban?
A lot of XM, some audio books, but a lot of satellite radio, talk radio, and stuff like that. I've been. God rest his soul, I've been kicked off the Alan Combs show 3 times.
Well, getting on it yeah.
People are like, "Why do you listen to Alan Combs?" I'm like, "You got to know what the enemy's doing."
So, as a call-in then?
Oh, well, as an invited guest twice.
Okay. How about that? All right. How important is it to you that a firearms trainer, kind of staying in the same vein, has personal experience in defensive scenarios? Another way of asking, can someone become a good instructor by simply taking a ton of instruction?
Yes. Here's what's funny is there are people say that don't ever take training from an instructor that hasn't been in a gunfight. Well, I'm one of the few people that can say I've been on both sides of that coin. I was an instructor before ever being shot at or shooting anybody, and I've been an instructor after.
Yeah. Getting
shot at doesn't make you a better instructor.
No. And
the things I was teaching before are what kept me alive during.
Right. I mean, I'm not an instructor, but I'd prefer not to get shot at if I've got my choice about it.
Where you hear that is from instructors that have been in gunfights, telling people not to train with people that haven't been in gunfights.
Okay.
But they somehow managed to get through their gunfight, and I think they just do that in an effort to have more people come to them, like that, like they're on the mountain and they are the all knowing or something. Whatever.
I hear you. Well, I appreciate that perspective. That seems pretty open minded.
Let me jump in there one more thing, if you don't mind.
Please.
I frequently get asked, do I think it should be required that people have X amount of training to get a carry permit or something like that? And the answer is absolutely not.
Yeah.
There should be no class. There should be nothing like that to carry a gun at all. Now, should people be responsible and go and get training? Absolutely, they should. But I run a business training people for money, and I don't want the government to make people come here and give me money.
No. Well, I'll interject a little bit here. Maybe call me libertarian, call me whatever you want to say. But, I don't think you ought to have a driver's license either. You ought to have to be responsible. I've got one. I've got a carry permit. That's the law of the land, whatever. But, constitutional carry seems like the right way from my perspective. Obviously, we ought to be responsible for what we do with that gun. But anyway, it's very good to hear you say that. Because you're right, a lot of folks get all kind of weird when money is involved. That you hear people say things that sound like Second Amendment supporters until it sounds like they might lose their CCW business. And it's very strange.
Well, it's like right now, they're trying to do all this stuff, Hughes Amendment. They're trying to, crush some of this NFA stuff.
Yeah.
Who's fighting that? Dudes that paid fucking $1 million for a minigun are fighting that.
Right, because it's going to drop the value of their guns, right?
Right.
But in the grand scheme of things, it's a win for our gun culture. I almost said community there, but I got to be careful. That's a win. I hear you. If your machine gun goes from being worth $15,000 to being worth, $2,000, is it the end of the world? I don't know. Principles, anyway, that's a whole different conversation. What people do when money gets involved is a whole different conversation.
It's called integrity.
Yeah, that manhood thing, right? Yeah. If you believe something, you ought to be willing for it to cost you something. In my opinion. So, what are your favorite movies, foods, music, pastimes, whatever? Rather than me do a 20 list, whatever's interesting about the,
Yeah, but I don't know what's interesting.
Yeah, to you, interesting to you. If somebody books, you've had.
Okay. Well, let's just start with what's recent. My wife and I had a date night last night, and we went and saw Logan. And it was a fantastic movie,
really?
And easily the best X-Men movie. Easily.
I haven't seen it.
It's now I grew up on comic books, so I like all the.
No, I love Wolverine. Yeah.
All that stuff. I was a Marvel guy, not a DC guy. No offense to Batman, but I'm a Spider-Man guy. But anyway,
there you go.
And they keep fucking Spider-Man up. Anyway.
But Tobey Maguire in there, he's not a superhero guy. Yeah.
Oh, horrible! Oh, so bad, so bad. Please stop.
Who looks at that guy and says that's a superhero? Maybe that's a guy that ought to be in a chick flick, but a superhero, Anyway.
Whatever, chick flick, whatever. Anyway.
I love chick flicks.
But me and my wife love movies, cinema, and stuff like that, and that's actually one of the things that really connected us at the beginning. And no kidding, before it was cool, every year we watch Die Hard on Christmas Day. We've been doing that since the 90s.
That's awesome.
If you were to find my wife out and say, hey, what is your family's Christmas movie? She will tell you Die Hard.
Yeah. That's great. Now Bruce Willis, there's an action hero,
Yeah, and you don't hear dirt on him like you do a lot of actors and stuff. He pretty much stays out of politics and stuff like that. I figure probably because he leans towards the conservative side. I want to believe that anyway.
Yeah.
But
if it's not true, just don't tell us, Bruce. We don't want
yeah.
don't ruin it for us.
Yeah, right. So, But I'm trying to think. I'm so busy, last few years creating content that I don't absorb much of it. My wife, because of DVR, I get to watch shows now that I never would have got to watch. So my wife and I, we do the standard stuff like we did Sons of Anarchy and Breaking Bad
Yeah.
and Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Those types of movies. I couldn't get into like Game of Thrones and all that. I can't do dragons and I can't do fantasy
No,
and all
Game
that.
of Thrones is weird.
But yeah, we basically that's what she likes to do. Is in the evening we watch some television. I'm typically on my phone or something, but
Yeah.
but she doesn't make me watch chick flicks. She watches them, but she doesn't make me watch them.
Yeah.
And she would never ask me to go to the movies for a chick flick ever.
No?
So oh no, she would never do that. Matter of fact, she doesn't do it when there's a movie I know she wants to see. I will actually ask her if I can take her because she would never ask me to go.
Sounds like you guys have a good thing going. How long have you been married?
We have a great thing going. We've been together since '93 and married since '96.
Okay, that's a good run. That's good to hear.
Now, when we got married, she loves this story. Well, the day we got married, we just went to the courthouse, and after we got married, we both went to work. I was in uniform when I got married, but we walked in, and the justice of the peace looked at me, looked at her, and looked back at me and said, "Are you sure about this?" And I looked at her and I said, "Yeah, I feel pretty good about it." He said, "You sure you don't want to go out and walk around the block or anything like that first?"
Really? To you, not to her, huh? You normally hear that reversed with him.
No, he's looking right at me.
How about that?
I feel pretty good about it. He said, "All right." So that's a bone of contention with her. Point of contention.
She's like, "What am I, chopped meat? Like, what's?"
Oh, and I'm married way above my station. She's still gorgeous.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm glad to hear it. I get so sick. Just a personal, I don't know, a personal pet peeve. I get so sick of hearing guys get with guys and talk their wives down. I'm just so, like what? Why are you married to her? If that, I'm so. Yeah. So it's really
right. Exactly. Basically, they don't have any balls. They got pressured into being married,
right?
And now she wears the pants, and that's how they take action. If you like people say to me stuff like, "Oh, I bet you talk all big and bad, but I bet you don't act like that at home." Yeah, I do. And if my wife heard him say that, my wife would look at him and say, "Yeah, I'm not married to a pussy."
Yeah. No, I used to laugh. I worked in a gun shop for a little while, not as a I was working on development of their website and that kind of stuff. But every once in a while, I'd get around to the retail side of the thing, and it always tripped me up to hear everybody talk about, well, I got to ask the wife about this gun or whatever, And I get it; it's kind of a culture thing. That they're it's probably not as true as it is, but it's just really, I don't totally get that. I don't totally get what that's all about.
If it were true, I wouldn't admit it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a weird thing. I think we were raised differently, or so. I don't know.
What I tell those guys is, hey, you should go buy your wife a new purse, and before you give it to her, get your balls out of it.
I love it. Oh, that's great. I'm going to list a few words, and you pick one or two, and say whatever you want about that, but the ones that are interesting to you. So I'm just, rather than
like Rorschach test or something.
No. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not friendship, loyalty, mindset, courage, honor, motorcycles, legacy, generations, tactics.
And I'm.
Yeah.
And what do you
pick whichever one you want and say whatever you want to say about
it. If you crushed it all together, I would say Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just a sequence of those words that made me think of Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah. So just whichever one's interesting to you, or that's a perfectly good answer, right as you are. But
I don't know. I mean, that was a
I did it fast.
Word. Yeah, no, that was a flurry of words. I don't know. I'm trying to. There's just a whole bunch of stuff going on there.
Yeah, well, let's do it this way then. This is a more traditional way of doing it. First thing that comes to your mind when I say a word. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, friendship.
team. And what I mean by that is that there is there is a being on a team. I've been on several teams, SWAT teams and stuff like that. And now we have a team here at Tactical Response. And even though there are struggles day to day, and even though sometimes people go there, like we just had a guy, Calvin Lim, he's no longer with us here at the company. And the last words I said, I gave him a hug and I told him I loved him when he left, and so I don't know it just seems to me like in life people don't really value that word friendship, or they call people friend, and they really mean acquaintance or something like that. But if you're my friend, if I use that word, or brother when I talk to you, like I will make sacrifices for you. I will do things for you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of lost on a lot of people.
Yeah. So there's more weight to it than the way it gets thrown around.
Maybe I give it more weight, but it means something different to me than I think it means for a lot of people.
Okay. Loyalty probably could be coupled with that. So you want to move to mindset, or do you want to say it, or you want to go with loyalty too?
Loyalty is a very underrated thing, and it's like in the past, like there was one time when a friend of mine, there were two law enforcement officers whom were friends and I respected greatly, and one of them I talked to him years prior, and I said, man, like, if you ever run for sheriff, let me know. I'll do whatever I can to support you in that, financially, and help him put up signs and all that stuff. And because he was well liked and he was a great guy, and I thought he could be a great sheriff. Then another friend of mine, not that one, but another one said, hey, I'm going to run for sheriff. Will you help me? I said, yeah, I'll help you. Then the other guy said, hey, I'm going to run for sheriff, and I'm calling in that favor now.
Oh, wow.
So here I am between these two guys, and I lost a friend over it. And he will tell you, because he might use the word disloyal when he talks about it. But and I went to him. He didn't hear it from somebody else.
Which decision did you make? Who did you back?
The original guy.
Yeah.
The guy I gave my word to first.
Yeah.
I went to the second guy and I said, listen, I want you to hear this from me, not somebody else. This is what's happening. I apologize. I know that what I told you was this, but
I didn't know this was going to transpire. Yeah. Okay.
Right. And so I was in this horribly awkward position, and I lost a friend over it. And so loyalty is absolutely important to me, and that's one time when my loyalty put me in this weird place, and there was no win, because the other guy, who would have probably forgiven me, would have been jilted. So loyalty is absolutely important to me, and so I can look back in my whole life, and there's that one time when somebody could say I was disloyal, but no other time. I've never cheated on any girl I ever dated, let alone cheated on my wife in marriage or anything like that. And what I have found is if any guy that will cheat on his wife will fuck you over. Yeah. Because if he can look her right in the eye and lie every day, that person that he's the closest to, you are nothing to him.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of the same principle. It served me well over the years. Is somebody, though I'm a young guy, if somebody will talk down to you about somebody else, they'll talk down to you about you, with somebody else. I don't know how people normally say that, but somebody that's always gossiping and they're talking stuff about somebody else. I always think, man, if he's doing this with me, as soon as he gets with somebody else, he'll do this about me. Yep. Same principle.
And he's probably cheating on his wife.
Yeah, same guy, same thing. Yeah, mindset.
Well, that's just a word.
Yeah. Okay. In context of training, mindset.
Well, as far as your defense, I don't care what aspect of life we're talking about. If we're talking about, I want to be healthier, so I need to work out. Mindset is what makes you get out of bed and go to the gym, or get off the couch and go work out. As far as we're talking about mindset, like in the defensive, self-defense realm, you have to read Jeff Cooper's book, The Principles of Personal Defense. It is the definitive work on a fighting mindset. It's 70 pages. It's a small book.
So no excuse not to read it, huh?
and it's the book that when people come up to me and say, "Hey, how do I get my wife or my mom or my brother or my cousin or my husband? How do I get them involved in this stuff? I can't seem to get through to them." I tell them to get them a copy of that book, wrap it up, and gift wrap it, and give it to them on, listen, your birthday, and tell them their gift to you is to read that book. Even if they never carry a gun, the lessons in there about fighting a mindset could potentially save their life. And those lessons are like on alertness, aggressiveness, coolness, ruthlessness, decisiveness, and those things. And the one that people have the biggest problem with, or they think they do, is ruthlessness. For instance, shooting somebody in the back. They're like, "Oh, you can't shoot people in the back." I said, "Oh, so if you walk into a place and somebody has your wife at gunpoint, you're gonna do like on the movies and whistle for them to turn around before you shoot them?"
No.
Like, no, shoot them in the back.
It's not a John Wayne movie. I love John Wayne, but it's not a John Wayne movie. It's real life.
Yeah. Or somebody snatches up your kid and they're walking away toward the van with them. You're not going to shoot them in the back? Yeah, you're going to shoot them in the back. And I tell people all the time, don't invite people to your shooting. And they're like, "What do you mean?" Well, 2 people shooting is a gunfight. I would rather be in a shooting. That means there's just one gun.
I hear that sounds good. Speaking of that, you kind of speaking of that, what do you think about what would you say about the conversation? I am. I'll just put myself out there. I'm a pastor. That's my 9 to 5. You probably already knew that. If not,
so you're kind of cutting out. You're kind of cutting out. You said I'm a pastor.
I'm a pastor. That's my day. That's my job.
Okay.
And so I get this. I'm not about to give you a gospel presentation, or I don't have you trapped here. That's not what's happening. But I get this question.
You're cutting out real bad.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Can you? How about now? Still cutting out?
It's
nothing.
Yeah.
We're good now, or we're.
I'm getting a little bit.
Okay.
It's still in and out.
Okay. So I don't know what's changed here. Is it no?
It's better now.
Okay. So I also live in an urban kind of setting. I live in a city environment. Charlotte, North Carolina. Okay. So in Charlotte, people are, and near the uptown area of Charlotte. So people are often pretty surprised to kind of, "Oh, you're a gun guy and you're a pastor," because that's just not something that they're used to. So I end up getting in the conversation a lot about like the ethics of taking life and how that kind of, and I'm not trying to get into the Christianity side of it, but I think it's important that somebody has an idea of what they would do and what they're prepared to do before they're in that situation. Would you comment on,
Yeah, absolutely. Even if we are talking about the biblical side of it, your life is a gift from God.
Right, absolutely.
And so and so.
Oh yeah, I have no problem talking about it on that side of the fence. I just wasn't asking you to. If you want to.
Well, I'm just saying that's my opinion. You're like, so like.
Yeah.
It's funny because a few years ago, people would say stuff like, "Oh, you shouldn't carry a gun in church," and now it's like, "Oh, well, we have a security team," which means a bunch of untrained people with carry permits. I mean, but
is that your experience? That's what it means normally.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've not found anything that's different. Like, I get calls from them all the time. And they're like, "What does it cost?" And they, it costs this. Well, we're a church. Well, get some donations.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Pass the plate around.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I eat breakfast every morning, virtually every morning, with a Baptist preacher, and he's a very good friend of mine. He's been on my channel before, and he doesn't like when I preach at him. I'll say that. But what I tell people all the time is, some of the apostles carried swords.
Absolutely.
And sometimes I'll have and this is not against Christianity, but sometimes I have a Christian wag their finger at me, and I'm like, flip open the Bible and read about the apostles, and find how many are like me, and then find out how many are like you.
Yeah. Well, I would argue. You could look past the apostles and go all the way to Jesus, but that's it's a different conversation. I just the ethics.
I just didn't want to liken myself to a deity.
Yeah. No, yeah. No, it's that hypostatic union thing. It's the 100% God, 100% man thing. It's okay, you know, like it's. So I just say on the man side of the fence. I'm not talking about on the God side of the fence. So courage. What does courage mean to you, or what would your first thing that comes to your mind when you go to courage?
Well, courage, people say things like courage is being absolutely scared to death, but doing it anyway. That's what courage looks like. And I wouldn't disagree with that. If you are not afraid of something, then you are a psychopath or a sociopath. If you're really not afraid.
Yeah.
If you're afraid and do it anyway, you're courageous.
Right. Yeah. Not crippled by the fear.
Right.
Okay. Motorcycles. I see that you just got a new one.
It's as close as you can to being a jet pilot if you're afraid of heights.
Okay. All right. For me, the thing that I love about riding a motorcycle is that I had a season when I was in student ministry that just lots of bad counseling situations. Like every day somebody was getting, somebody was getting abused every day. You're just horrible thing. And I could get on that on the way home, and I couldn't focus on anything else. I had to pay attention to the road,
Right.
And it was just a really cathartic kind of thing for me. Nothing. A lot of people don't understand it, but I can't think of a lot of things that I enjoy more than just riding a motorcycle. Anyway.
Well, I've got my street bike license when I was 14 years old, and I've done 75,000 miles on bikes just the last like 6 or 8 years.
That's crazy. You're an iron butt guy. I mean, that's nuts.
Not an iron butt, but we did it. We did a 4,000 mile trip last year, and we're going to do another one this year. I mean, when you got to get an oil change on a trip, that's a long trip.
That's a long trip. 2 hours is good for me. I'm not.
Right.
Yeah.
But and we're doing a Memorial week ride over at Deals Gap. If you want to meet us halfway.
Yeah, Deals Gap's beautiful. That's my first assignment after college was in Greenville, Tennessee.
It's Greenville.
Greenville, I know. I spent 8 years in Greenville. Still have a house there that is rented out. I mean, so it's a beautiful area of the country. That's not too far from Deals Gap. It's definitely doable. Generations. We already said legacy. That's probably connected to that. Maybe I could.
Or we could talk about Star Trek.
Yeah, okay. The next generation. One way of asking is, who is the most influential person in your life that's no longer with us?
I've been so fortunate to have so many people have such a positive impact on my life. Man, I don't know. That'd be a tough one.
Okay.
That'd be tough, and it's going to sound weird, but certainly the one that keeps seeming like it's going to be at the top was my high school art teacher, believe it or not.
Really?
And I was horrible at art. But he always got tasked with like building floats and things like that. And I know how to do all kinds of stuff like, saw and drill.
Yeah.
And so he was always getting me out of class to go do stuff, but he was a very positive role model for me. My mom and dad got divorced when I was 5, and so like boys are always looking for some male mentor, and he was a very positive influence on me, and we stayed friends. We stayed pretty close. I saw him several times a year and things like that, even up until he passed away. It's been just over a year now, but probably my high school art teacher, as crazy as that sounds, he was a guy that I could talk to if I needed to, and real good guy.
Well, the last word then, and we're right at it. We're right at 55 minutes, so we've got to cut it down. I don't want to take more than an hour of your time. Tactics.
Doing things so you get more turns to shoot than the bad guy.
Okay.
Or here's a tactic for staying married.
Okay.
Treat your woman like you want her, not like you have her.
Yeah. 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 Perfect. Awesome. Anything that you want to say at the end? I would ask normally here I would ask people how to find you, but I've heard you say if they that they could find you. So
it's an IQ test. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want stupid people to train with me.
Right.
Here's what I'll say: there are people right now training to kill you. Not your neighbors, not other people. They're training to kill you. They hate everything you're about. They hate your family, your house, your neighborhood, your constitution, your country, your religion. They hate everything about you. And my question is, what are you going to do when they knock on your door? What are you going to do when they show up at your mall? What are you going to do?